I started Flyover in 2008. I'd been working in agencies and working for agencies for a long time, and I always saw a better way, right? I think there's a better way. Um, so I decided to start my own business. I'd been working in an agency. I went to a startup to get a job, and it just wasn't satisfying. Um, I felt like the whole agency model of so many layers and so many people. It's just not a good model. It's not a good model. And I'm going to pretend like right now, actually, that I'm actually talking to you, even though I'm not looking at you, and it feels weird. Um, yeah, so I was working at a place called, we won't, no, I won't be specific, but I was working at a startup, and we had a house fire.
Like an actual house fire?
Yes, this house right here caught on fire. And so we had to leave because it completely, I mean, it destroyed right, the electricity, etc. So we left this house and we went and we lived in a temporary kind of hotel for
Mhm.
like a month or two. And it was just during that period of time that the fire and just the fact that working in that agency environment didn't feel healthy, and it just made me question everything. The house fire, right? And that was a terrible night because my kids were here. I had to get them out of the house.
Yeah.
And so it kind of created this drama and this trauma, and like then uh, and it just made me start thinking about what was I doing with my career. I was going off somewhere every day, spending all these hours doing things for other people, and
Yeah.
basically just working myself to death um, to help other people realize their dreams. I mean, that was the key. And I'd built this great network and all these skills, and I just felt like um, it was time to do my own thing, um, and uh, and I had got an opportunity where I got called up to do a contract. So essentially, I was making a lot of money at that startup,
Mhm.
and so essentially, I quit my job, and no one should do this
Mm.
with two kids, and a family, the whole thing going on. I quit my job for a $2,500 contract.
2,500?
$2,500 contract.
Mhm.
But I knew I could do it, right? I knew I could do it. And that quickly turned into, um, a great business that I ran for 7 years. But I took that risk, and no one should take those sorts of risks because that was a really stupid thing to do.
Just happened to work
Yeah,
out.
no, it was a really stupid thing to do. But I knew, when I did it, but I had thought it through. It wasn't rash either. I'd been like, I am going to start this business. I can do this. Things are falling into place. And then when I got that call that day, and who I got that contract with, that just immediately, it was the thing where I you know, started the thing, went and got the down payment, agreed to fly off somewhere and meet with some clients and do some stuff, and within 2 weeks, I had a check for $30,000 in my hand.
Heck yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, I guess a lot of people might not think that's a lot of money, but but that started the business. So I went from making a lot of money at a startup and working at agencies to taking that risk.
What were some of the things that you saw in the agency that you didn't like as much that you thought you could improve on by running your own business?
So I think some of the things that are wrong with the agency model, and I think it's just what's wrong with business. People aren't happy. I mean, I don't think anyone. I mean, there's moments of happiness, right? And not everything's bad, but people overall aren't happy, and I feel like people are they're just working for a paycheck. And some people, that's exactly what they want. I've had this conversation with so many people, and they're like, I just want to show up at 8 and get off at 4, 4:50,
Mm-hmm.
and pick up my paycheck and live my life, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And people will come in new and fresh, and that's always the joke too, right? People come in new and fresh, and they're all excited, and they've got all these plans and things, and then you talk to them a year later, and they're like, "I hate my life,"
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because nothing ever pans out the way that you uh, want it to. And so I would say that, and just the control that companies try to um, enforce on people, right? Control and it's the thing where it's like, well, okay, we'll start you out at a week's vacation, and
Yeah.
then after you've been here for 5 years, we'll give you two.
Yeah.
Or hey, we're going to give you a 1% raise if you do really good every year, right? And hey, if we have a great year, it might be 2%. I had a project manager that worked for me once. I say called it on all these projects. It's a death march. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone feels like they're not going to be successful, and then most people get into that thing of I just need to do my minimum and
Mm-hmm.
pick up a paycheck. And that's just not a great environment for a creative person. Uh, that's just not a good environment to be in. From a client and customer service perspective, that leads to this back channel of negativity. I don't know how many times, and then you get into this thing where right, everyone hates their jobs and they hate their lives, and so they end up talking negative, just talking shit about clients too. And that's the thing that most clients don't understand. Every agency I've been at, people just talk shit about the clients, and that's not good. Where we like you can't blame clients and talk shit about clients. They're the reason you're there,
Yep.
right? And it's a job. So that's another piece that negative, and I've seen that. People talk about manifestation and how thoughts, what you think is your life, and it's absolutely true. I've seen that so many times. Companies get into this negative thing, and it will manifest itself, and they're going to lose clients, they're going to lose talent. It's
Yep.
not a good thing. So uh, I think that back channel of negativity is a very bad thing. The other thing is red tape. Too
Yeah.
much process, too many layers. That's not healthy for clients. I think sometimes when you get into these huge corporations and companies you know that they have a lot of red tape themselves. Um, I think sometimes that works out if you're like trying to be an agency of record and things like that. But that's a whole other world, right?
Right.
Um, I like this being more accessible to clients, right? A phone
Mm-hmm.
call away, a text away, really talking to and working with the people that are doing the work. So more of a boutique view. You don't need an owner, uh, a business developer, a salesperson, a project manager, and like a team lead all between you and the work that that company is doing for your company. I just all the that is just a terrible way to work. And again, that's just it is a different view. I can see how, you know, some of the, you know, sometimes that is the right thing, but then those just aren't the right clients for kind of, um, you know, a smaller company's vibe. I was convinced, and it wasn't necessarily even a money thing. It was an opportunity. So I did essentially, you know, uh, meld Flyover back into another agency for an opportunity to make that agency better. And I did that again for 5 years and gave it my all. And it, yeah, that, and that, all that, right, there's no such thing as a bad experience. All experiences are valuable. And that just showed me um, that you know, the path that I had gone down with Flyover was the right way, and that
Yeah.
agency model is such an outdated view of how to bring success to clients and success and happiness for the people that work there as well. I started Flyover the first time in 2008 during that recession and the real estate bubble bursting. And whereas, you know, you would think that's the worst time ever to start a business, it worked out well. Because
Yeah.
even though there was a huge downturn in the economy, and the thing that you hear from big companies is all the time, well, the first thing that we are going to cut is marketing, right? And that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I found that with smaller companies and medium-sized companies, and then smart companies, when we were having an economic downturn, instead of cutting marketing, they spent money on new websites and new ways to market themselves, and that brought them great success. So we were fortunate. I'm fortunate enough in 2008 to be working for some great companies that saw the value of continuing. So we actually, and we're super grateful for that. And I was super grateful and am super grateful for that. During that 2008 downturn, where a lot of people were suffering and some very bad things were happening, we were prosperous.
Yep.
And that's because, you can't stop, right?
Yep.
And also, I feel like our model was a good one for companies, even larger companies that continued to use us, because we were more cost effective.
Right.
More cost effective than having a large internal marketing department. Uh, right? We could come in and do things to help drive, new customers and build the business. Because when things are bad and the economy's bad, that's the time to keep building,
Yep.
right? Because that is not the time to stop.
Yep.
And
because then that way, I mean, you come out ahead of the other people that did stop too. Right?
absolutely. So as we started moving, late 2019, as we were moving towards the pandemic, but we didn't know it. I made the decision to restart Flyover, and so Ashley and I started Flyover again, and we officially kicked that off in February of 2020, just before the lockdowns hit. Coming into the pandemic in 2020, and now, you know, there was a temporary kind of a recession there. We saw, and now the fruits of everything that happened during that pandemic, right? With inflation, um, recession, uh, and the world situation with war, etc. Um, and this is not the time to stop; it's the time to build. When
Yeah.
things are down, you have to build. And I think the thing that the mistakes that are made are, what I mean by build isn't just go spend a lot of money. I would say
Right.
that's another thing that, we're remote first,
Mm-hmm.
and we work very hard to keep our overhead down and to keep our expenses under control. And that's just a well-run company. And sure, we make mistakes and have made a lot of mistakes. But you want a well-run company. You want to make sure that you're taking profit, and if you're spending that profit, you're investing that in the business. I think that's another big mistake that both companies and agencies make. They go spend too much on
Yep.
things that aren't directly impacting um, results for clients or building the business. There's a lot of ego and a lot of show, um, right? That we need to impress people. Well, let's impress people by let's impress clients by doing great work and showing that we can, have great results for those clients, no matter what the economic situation is. How does having, and this is an important discussion, I think, just overall. I say we're remote first because remote is not always the answer. I mean,
Right.
some companies, let's just say, let's take, Tesla, for example. I mean, that's a company where you're building stuff. There's teams of people building physical items together.
Yep.
That has to have that's more of a hands-on thing. You can't have people building things in factories remotely. Now we'll see where that goes with robotics. Instead of just making everything black and white, as a business, whether you're running whether you're a freelancer and it's just you, or it's
Mm-hmm.
two people, or it's a small business, you just have to ask yourself a question: what value is it going to add to my customers, my clients, or our business to have a building?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, sometimes
And
that,
today too, right?
hmm,
Like, so especially today when so many people can do Zoom,
yeah,
and it makes it easier to have clients from so far away. And
absolutely. But you have to ask yourself that question, because the answer might be, well, here's the value.
mm-hmm.
We need to have people. So, our friends who own a printing business, well, you can't access all those large machines and get that work done. It's physical, hands-on work and installations at places. Well, you can't do that 100% remote,
Right.
right? So what I'm just saying is, you just have to ask yourself that question as a business. Now, for us, um, you know, what would be the value of us having a building, a separate building for our clients? And that answer, our answer to that would be there is no value in that.
Right.
Uh, because yeah, I mean, okay, so we have a big fancy building with expensive furniture and cool, you know conference rooms and espresso machines and all that stuff. I mean, beyond impressing people,
Hmm.
uh, you know, that doesn't add any value. And then what value would it add to our business? You know, I feel like, um, you know, I mean, it would just, that's just something that would, you know, that would just take revenue that we should be investing in the actual work and building the business to invest in a space. That doesn't mean that and this is why I think I like the term remote first. That doesn't mean that someday we might not, you know, if we grew and added people, I could see that potentially someday a studio space or something like that would be valuable.
Right.
But but I just think it's particularly with a small business, right? And or you're a one person, two person, three person shop, five person, and just good examples. You know, 37 Signals. It works remotely, and we've seen such a switch. I read, you know, Facebook. Um, they were building a huge office in New York City, which they've canceled that
Yeah.
project because of the fact that, you know, of more remote working possibilities. So I just, again, it's a question that you have to ask yourself. If you're starting a business, right? We believe that remote first is the way to do it. Just think about it.
Hmm.
You're not, right? You're reducing your overhead heavily. There's some negative things out there about work from home, but I don't think that's work from home. I think that's how companies, and particularly larger companies, implement work from home. It
Yeah.
becomes a thing where it's more rigid and more structured in this view that we have to track, make sure people are in front of their computers working, we have to track what they're doing. And that level of control is what is toxic. That's
Hmm.
what's toxic about business.
Yeah.
Any business that runs itself that way is not a long term, sustainable, human focused business.
Right.
And that is not the future of business,
Yep.
because remote first, that could be working from home because this is work from home day,
Yep.
but we're not gonna, right, we're doing work for clients, and all that matters is that that work gets done and that
Yep.
our clients are happy and that we're doing great work for those clients, not tracking humans like they were cattle, right?
Hmm.
We're
Yep.
not worker bees, we're not a number. We're human beings,
Yep.
creative, smart human beings that need to, right, if you, and then it's, you know, I just feel like companies create a toxic environment that makes people want to do their minimum,
Yeah.
and then they throw them into remote work, and they just want to overly, you know, track and control people,
Yep.
and that's just not healthy. Remote first isn't just setting at home and being, you know, spied on by Big Brother between 9 and 5.
Yeah.
It is, right, it's working from home, it's being able to work your schedule around your life as long as you're, you know, talking to clients, attending
Hmm.
meetings, doing work, being, you know, communicating. And I think that instills in people a sense of, uh, you know, responsibility. And because here's the thing, if you can't trust someone. And I'm going to say this is to business and professionals. If a
Mm-hmm.
business can't trust someone to be responsible and get their work done, that's probably not a good person to have working for your business, whether they're remote or whether they're in the office.
Yeah.
And my experience is people in offices fuck around all day long.
Yeah.
They sit in each other's office and they talk, they take long lunches and they screw around, or they sit and they stare at their computer screen waiting
Yeah.
for 5 o'clock. That
Mm-hmm.
does not, because butts are in seats, does
Mm-hmm.
not mean people are working. That is a weakness in the company and in management that, well, at least I know where they are.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm just going to say that's messed up.